is be true to what you said on paper.
I wish that I could freely dream and be judged from within, haunted by a power that cannot see past my skin. My views are viewed as ignorant, my truth always denied. My history is shrouded in a spider web of lies. Isn't this America? Or is this America all a lie?
Of the freedom of speech, somewhere I read. Of the freedom of press, somewhere I read that the greatness of America is the right to protest far right.
How can I pledge allegiance to a country built on lies, or raise my children to believe they're equal?
All right, welcome back to the Pastor Wall Show. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO, folks.
You set my mic up. You good? I'm good.
There
Okay.
we go.
Sitting there struggling over the mouse, man.
It's like watching Tom and Jerry. Welcome back to At the Round Table with MAMLEO. I'm your host, Larry Ellison.
Get away, boo-boo.
Good morning. My co-host, Dr. Bradley, is in the house here, giving you a checkup for the neck up. And I don't know if it's Pastor Haas or Pastor Wall over there controlling the keyboard over there. It's a fight over there. I'm like watching this. We have to call the SWAT team and send them over.
I'm like,
Pastor Wall.
Go in the corner. You
Right.
okay? You okay?
Right.
I'm feeling your hand. Okay, yeah, you conscious. You conscious.
I know there's a seance going on here. I see things moving around. Let's see. I'm not technologically savvy, so I see things moving, and we're in church, and I'm like,
Exactly.
the Holy Ghost.
The Holy Ghost is not going to
I'm
leave us
making my way
alone.
to the door. I'm like, okay, we good? You sure? All right, dog, 'cause I can always excuse myself.
Get my coffee and leave.
That's why they have it on the run. We want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guarantee Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. Again, like I said, folks, it's a Boston Faith and Blue marquee event, Norman B. Leventhal Park, 130 Congress Street. That's going to be Friday, October 6th, 2023, 5:30 to 7 p.m. Free entertainment, free food, free parking. So that's being sponsored by the Boston Police, Meet Boston, FirstNet, and the Boston Police Athletic League as well. And then on Thursday, October 5th, at 2023 from 6:30 to 9 p.m. Collaboration with MAMLEO and the Boston branch of the NAACP will be hosting a Faith in Blue reception at October 5th, 2023 from 6:30 to 9 at the Harvard Club of Boston, 374 Commonwealth Ave, Boston, Mass. RSVP MAMLEOinc@gmail.com. Professional attire is required. Again, that's the Faith in Blue reception, October 5th, 2023.
Hey, brother, I just want to say that
Sure.
I do like that idea, man. The Faith in Blue.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm not quite sure.
Yeah.
Other than that, you bring the church and police together.
Yeah.
You know what that event is going to entail. What does it look like? You know, but the whole idea of having that event, you know, and having PD police as a part of that event is a very healthy and very well conceived idea, in my opinion.
No, we were just discussing, right, that we need to reconnect in a meaningful way, not just a symbolic. And it's really, honestly, it shouldn't just be that one day, right? We really need to have this going on on a regular bases and making sure. And with that said, that's part of what we're doing this morning here. We're bringing in one of our faiths, Kevin Peterson here. Is it pastor, reverend? What is it? Reverend. All the above. Reverend Kevin Peterson of the New Democracy Coalition. Doctor, we've always the importance of MAMLEO of having a connection with our clergy because, historically we have not been able to do the work that we do outside of our profession and inside of our profession without that connection. We've had Pastor Wall, but that is a dying art, and we don't really have those connections. And a lot of times, people on both sides of the aisle don't see the value in it, and they see it if it's not self-serving, they don't want any part of it. So we want to welcome back in this morning Reverend Kevin Peterson from the New Democracy Coalition. It's been a while, my brother. You're looking great, though, I tell you.
Well, thank you. Yeah. It's been a while, and it's always good to be home.
Yeah, let's call you
home.
Slim Jim now.
I mean, he's losing weight, and I'm finding it.
Listen, he's giving me a little hit,
I'm trying to stay ahead of the health issues.
That's the right thing.
Bring it down a little bit. So
you're a great example of it.
I'm glad to be here. I'm glad to be healthy and sound body, sound mind, and in a good spirit.
Right.
Always good to be here at the MAMLEO show Saturday mornings.
Yes, I know it's early. I know
Saturday mornings like coffee. I listen often. I don't call in as much as I would like to, but I'm always staying in touch.
All is welcome.
Yeah.
And like I said, if you want to call in this morning, the call-in number is still the same: 617-282-0685. 617-282-0685. So Kevin, you reached out. You got a lot going on. I mean, even though we haven't seen you, you've been quite busy. I know you have Reparations Boston and Spoken Word Sunday, October 8th, 7 p.m. at 611 Columbia Road, Dorchester, Mass. at the Comfort Kitchen. And you're going to talk. Let's dive into that. I know there's some other issues as well you want to get into.
Yeah,
but let's start with
we start with reparations. As you know, we've been on the reparations campaign for about 5 years now. So they've been in the spirit of Bill Owens, who in 1989 was the first to file a reparations bill, first in the nation, I should say. Senator Bill Owens, who passed away a couple of years ago. Before he died, we started working with him, about 3 years before he died. We started working with him about reparations, and we were connecting it initially with the Change the Name of Faneuil Hall campaign as a form of reparations. As many of you know, Peter Faneuil was a slave owner, a person who upon his death at 43 had 5 slaves in his home over on Tremont Street, over near where the Suffolk Law School is currently. He was not a nice man, but his legacy looms in the city's history as someone who is mostly a benefactor and someone who was kind and generous, but he was nothing but that. He was a human trafficker who made most of his money, his fortune, after inheriting some. He made most of his money through the slave trade. So we're continuing to push around that and push more broadly around the issue of reparations. You mentioned we have an event on October 8th, 7 p.m. at Comfort Kitchen, one of our newest, nicest restaurants in the community. If you haven't been there, you should go immediately.
It's
where is it?
It's
Upham's Corner area.
611 Columbia Road.
I'm not trying to dissuade people, but you're better off if you can walk there than to drive there. That's the problem with the businesses over there. Is parking is really tight in that area there. But
so they're our host, and this event on October 8th is the Indigenous Day weekend. So it's a Sunday night.
Formerly Columbus
Day. We're not giving him that.
No,
right?
But see, again, that speaks to what we've always talked about, is that the name might get changed, or whatever, just like Nubian Square, but the attitude in our situation does not change. Because I've always said, reparations. I said it should be reparations / payment in lieu of services, because I think people think we're looking for something for nothing, and that people were indentured slaves and they got nothing for it. So now it's time to pay up. It's time to pay up. So reparations / payment in lieu of services rendered.
That's right.
But
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
And that is that's part of the point of the kickoff on the 8th. It is a kickoff that's about educating the community about what reparations is and how to define it, because it can be defined, Dr. Bradley, in so many ways. It's not just a money payment. We have issues around land acquisition and land ownership. There are issues around healthcare and education, where the black community is behind in the wake of and the legacy of slavery and systematic oppression. So this event, which is spoken word, we have 20 of the most notorious spoken word artists, black, from across the area, who are coming to speak on the theme of reparations. So we've commissioned them to put together a spoken word presentation around liberation, black liberation, reparation, what it means to them, as a way to begin educating the community.
So with that in mind, and I want to grab this call in a second, because we were talking about that earlier, is and maybe you aren't having the same problem, so correct me if I'm wrong. We're having a difficult time getting our folks to understand issues such as this. It seems a little bit complex, like voting, and why the importance of, we're seeing the results of not engaging and not getting plugged in and knowing what's going on, and more involved in theatrics and reality TV than reality itself. Are you experiencing the same thing, like with getting folks?
It's problematic throughout our community. In terms of voting, as you know, I've been with Pastor Hobbs and so many others. We've been working around the issue of voting and getting our community to make the connection about their condition. The condition and where we need to go in terms of voter participation remains problematic. So also with this issue of reparations, our community sort of has a sort of faint understanding of what it is, but in terms of moving on it in any substantive way, in terms of conversation and talking about public policy, that's not there yet.
So good.
I was just going to say, because he made a good point with that. Reparation can mean many things to many different people, and one of the things I think that need to be very consistent with reparation is that a part of it should be that we are constantly educating our people on who we are and the contributions that we made here in this country, because through that lack of education,
that's right,
they can easily persuade us that reparation is not necessary. Why everybody else has gotten it, you know what I mean? But we don't deserve it. And that is far, far from truth. So I think a part of it should also be, we will not allow you to kick out our history. We will encourage. We will not allow you to disregard the importance of civic education. We demand that this is in. If you're going to take our money to fund your schools, we're going to make sure that our people understand the contributions that our people made, period. So it's and I love the idea that it's not just money, it's also educating the future of blacks who are coming up.
Right. So I want to follow this up, and then I want to grab these calls. So the city council has brought this up right there. What is going on there? I know there's been hearings on this, but where is it? And is this just another symbolic gesture?
Yeah, and I want to make a correction for the record. The people brought this to the city council's agenda. So there were people for, as I mentioned, 5 years or so on the ground pushing the issue of reparations. It is only through the groundswell, the organizing of people on the ground, that it came up to the city council. And the only way we could get a reparations task force was to go through the city council. So I want
and what the task force? What are they charged with?
They're charged with over the next 2 years looking at the issue of reparations, looking at the history, looking at what happened, and then making recommendations to our mayor as to what they believe reparations should look like in terms of policy, or in terms of a monetary sort of contribution to those folks in our city who are connected with the slave trade.
right, let's grab this call. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable. And Kevin Pearson, let's do this one.
Good morning. This is Jamal. How you doing?
Good morning, Jamal.
Good morning.
All right. Peace. So, couple of things, and one, I want to talk a little bit about strategy, and and then also too with the reparations movement. I guess I'll start there first. So, it's been increasingly difficult for me as I've been watching the many new strains of reparations activism that's been going on, and I'm like, wow, where were these people? So for a brother like me who's been involved in the reparations movement for over 30 years, I remember years ago we had buses coming out of Boston to go to the Millions for Reparations March. That was in like 2004, and once again it was like pulling teeth, right? But now, because I think it's in some ways, for those who are newcomers to it, it's become like a cause de celeb. Everybody's talking about it, and now those folks who are new to the issue now jump to the forefront and then want to lead on the issue. And I remember when I was speaking with one person, I won't mention the name, but this person was telling me all about reparations and all this, and I was just like, okay, well, one of my elders is Dr. Conrad Worrell from N-Cobra. They didn't know N-Cobra. They thought I was talking about the villain in G.I. Joe. You know what I'm saying? So people who are in the mix of reparations who don't even know some of the people who, started this. I'd be talking about Republic of New Africa. People have no idea what I'm talking about. So in Boston, I think that we need some sort of, I would say like a reparations conference or something to kind of straighten out amongst ourselves first.
Right. So, Jamal, what I hear you saying is kind of how I feel, right? Because I think Black Lives Matter was a perfect example. Is that we have moments here, not movements, right? In this country, and even in this state, that you very rarely hear talking about black. And I think, to me, what's an optic of it is I remember when they were painting the yellow sign Black Lives Matter down on Washington Street near the old cornfield, right? And over the time it was very bright and then you can barely see it now if it's even there. It faded, and that's like we don't sustain push. Like Kevin, Jamal, almost like we're preaching to the choir. MAMLEO, we've been doing the same thing. When we have a cause, we stick with it, even though it may not be popular, even though we don't get the support. Is how do we get folks who actually are impacted more by what we're doing in a lot of cases than us personally to get engaged with what's happening, even when it impacts them? Like we were talking earlier on the show, is that this shutdown is going to affect a lot of people who depend on the assistance. But like I said, in primary, 34 people voted in the precinct that I was in. So that tells me all I need to know about the lack of involvement with people. How do we get that turnaround? Because I'm pretty much throwing my hands up in the air. I'm not sure we can.
Well, you got to reach out to them and make way for them. There are champions like Jamal, who's been around, is very knowledgeable around the issue. We invite the conversations with Brother Jamal to have engagement with with people in the community who are just coming to this issue. I'm slow to criticize someone who want to come and help and learn and speak to the issue because they're new. I think providing the opportunity for them to learn from whatever I have, whatever I can pour into them, I'm happy and willing to do it. We created a People's Reparations Commission on the ground that parallels the task force.
Right, and I'm not, but I'm saying, and this is not anything to it. We have a lot of commissions, and I guess for me, I see very little that come out of them other than
30 people,
a stall tactic.
30 people showed up for this meeting to become commissioners on the ground, and it is about educating the community more broadly. So it's easy to say, well, we try and we fail, and we try and it fades, and that's so dysfunctional about our community. But in the wake of nothing, you got to do something. Yeah. Yes, sir.
Good.
What I'm concerned about is a lot of what I've heard thus far in the meetings I've gone to is a lot of dangerous rhetoric, and it's old, and it's, I mean, all the people I know squashed this out in the early talks about reparations. So first of all, anybody who's serious-minded, reparations is not a check. If somebody says, we going to get a check, get away from me.
Yeah.
Okay? Let's get that out. You thinking with Dave Chappelle mindset. You're going off the skit, okay? And you want to buy you a Cadillac or something, okay? I'm not with that, okay? So reparations has always been infrastructure. The second thing is I'm hearing a lot of divisiveness now, and it reminds me of some of this Tariq Nasheed, crap, with the foundational Black Americans and then the ADOS and all this. At the reparations task force for the city of Boston meeting, a young 19-year-old girl, I won't mention names or affiliations or whatever, but it was cute to me. It tickled me. Young 19-year-old girl, because I mentioned, I'm part Jamaican. She said, well, go back to Jamaica and get your reparations.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I was like, ooh, check her out. She's spicy. Little spicy thing.
Wow.
Okay, but the point is that the miseducation is because, not for nothing, I will go back to Jamaica and get my reparations too. Because, see, unlike her, I don't have a limited vision limited into Boston and limited into Black American. I want reparations for every part of me that's in there. The Portuguese owe me for the Cape Verdean side. The English owe me for the Jamaican side. America owes me for the U.S. side. Oh, yes, sir. There's many plaintiffs. I mean, many co-defendants in this case. And see, I think because we lose out on the Pan-African talk, this is what is messing us up. But in any event, let me just land with this.
Yep.
Spoken word and reparations. You said you got 20 of the back. You didn't invite me.
I was going to say, why isn't Jamal in there? Because he's one of the most, one of the most articulate in that category there.
I'll check my email. Maybe it went to my spam folder. Maybe the invite is in the mail.
Maybe we can modify that. At least give you.
It is an event where there's an open mic also. And Jamal, I apologize for the oversight. I wasn't the person who was directly on the ground sort of inviting the artists. That's not my venue, so I don't know those folks. There were other organizers. But as we speak, Jamal, I want to personally invite you as one of the keynote featured.
It's all good.
No. Because it goes to the point that you've been making around a lot of, there have been so many people who have been on the ground around this issue for 20, 30 years. And we need to pour into those folks who just came around.
Absolutely. And I'm like Dr. Bradley, because that's why, like I said, when you call and say, hey, sure, we'll make time for you. Because, like I say, because we understand the importance, we are always going to make ourselves available to the community. I'm like Dr. Bradley when I grabbed the call. And Jamal, I'm going to tell you the reason why it's that 19-year-old that was in charge of the talent, so that's why you didn't get the call. That's right. Dr. Bradley.
That's spicy. It was a spicy. That's the same girl.
She was saying perhaps you would get a call from someone in Jamaica.
Right.
Yeah, man.
Did you want to say?
Yeah, I want to say something real quickly about reparation because I think Jamal made a good point as usual about it's not just about a check.
That's right.
One of the things that really frustrates me about this whole issue around reparation is that people are pushing for that. I want my money.
Right.
But from the beginning of this country, from 1619, we have always been fighting for full citizenship in this nation. It's an issue around full citizenship and dignity. So reparations should also point to that. And it should point to that by making sure that policies, structures, institutions are changed to recognize my full citizenship and dignity as an American Black with African heritage.
Right.
That's how I see it. You know what I mean?
Like that's what the folks down in Tulsa are doing, right? They're restructuring their infrastructure. They realize because you get a check and once you spend it, it's gone.
It's done.
Right.
But the behavior's still there.
We talk about that generational wealth when the Globe did their story several years ago, probably over 10, 15 years now, about the net worth of Black Boston, $8, 247. And it's declined, and Black Boston probably worth less than $8 now, and White Boston has gone up. I immediately knew it didn't have to do with jobs they were able to obtain, but if they were homeowners 30 years ago, they have now built up equity. If you had an insurance policy, as one of our guests come on, Rose Pierce, that's a generational wealth that is established. That's a reparation in itself, being able to obtain a home, being able to be educated, right? That's a reparation. It's not always the monetary you see in your pocket.
But I think we need to guard against the outside forces convincing folks that it's all about money, because it's not.
That's a mentality. It's just like folks when they were, am I getting a stimulus check? That little bit of money was enough to get them excited, knowing that $1,400 wasn't going to do much of anything to change your life, rather than figuring out how I can get $1,400 a week or whatever. That might be a better benefit in investing in something that's going to be a residual of some type of income and equity and generational wealth.
But before you go there, but it also, when you look at it just from a money perspective, you lose sight of future generations benefiting from that reparation.
Well, this is why I say about we always operate in a moment, not a movement, and that's gotcha. What you're talking about. It's just like I said, you don't hear talking. That painting of the street down Wall Street is a perfect reminder of me every time I drive by there, how it's just faded, right? Our problems are still the same. They still exist, but our willingness to stick. Go ahead, Jamal. I'm going to grab this caller. Yep, go ahead.
Okay, let me bring this up too, because the Black Lives Matter thing was also an interesting focal point, because the people who did that were so invested in it. Like, yo, this is our statement to the world. And then a couple weeks later, when it began to get dirtied, remember too, this is the other danger when we get so invested in these type of things. Their first reaction was to say, we've been sabotaged by the white supremacists are coming down here trying to erase the Black Lives Matter, and they didn't consider just the reality that you placed it in the most high traffic area, fire trucks, MBTA buses, school buses, cars, kids doing wheelies, and so what was looked at to be a conspiracy and an attack against actually just was normal wear and tear. So we have to be careful on both sides.
Right. No, absolutely. Let me bring this other caller in. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the round table. Caller, you there?
Yep. Good morning, my brothers.
Good morning. What's
mathematics? I'm here to just add on to the conversation with the brother Kevin.
Okay.
And I would like to say, Jamal, in defense to Kevin, he did have me pick the featured artist, but we do need seasoned artists like yourself to make our competition of 15 to 20 artists bringing spoken word, poetry, and positive rap to the to the event. So I don't know if Kevin mentioned that the event's also going to entail a contest for spoken word, poetry, singing, and positive rap. So I don't know if you want to be invited as someone that could help season and create a better challenging contest, or if you do want to come as a featured artist, we'd be more than happy. But I want to apologize on his behalf because I wasn't familiar that you were a spoken word artist myself.
Okay, so now first of all, y'all taking this way too serious. I was just poking fun.
I don't think that. No, I think they want to include you. I think it's
I think it's all love. So
they see your talent.
So we do need competitors for the event, because what the event is really designed for too is, like you guys are speaking about, is self-accountability. Reparations is more important than the reparations that's going to come from the United States government. Are we taking accountability for the drugs we sold in our community? Are we taking accountability for the behaviors that we show to our youth? Are we taking accountability for putting the street signs versus before being a father and actually going to jail for repping a street sign but not standing up for a cause for our children and our community? So this competition is about trying to bring our youth out, our adults out, to bridge the gap between us and then form some positive,
right. So you read right into my next question is, what is the objective and the outcome? Because we have these events, they're nice, they may be well attended, but then the outcome I see is it like Jamal said about the wear and tear on that sign, it just kind of goes away. How do we have a continuum of what we really need? We don't need one-hit wonders, and I'm not disparaging what you're doing, is that because I see even at MAMLEO, as a former president of my organization, it's very difficult to keep people engaged in matters that concern them, that I know from history has taught us that we have to have the sustainability, right? That it wasn't just once in a while we sat at the lunch counter. We were there every day on the bus. We walked and we made sure that we continued with that. A lot of the institutions that we supported, like the NAACP and whatnot, the membership is dramatically declining. I'm not saying whether you believe it or not. I'm saying is that we don't have an infrastructure in place to keep this going, because that's what keeps these people somewhat in line.
Well, mathematics just took it to a deeper level in terms of talking about spiritual reparations, in terms of self-accountability. we have, in our community, there's the highest murder rate across the city. How do we begin to repair that? What does reparations look like in terms of that internal work? So mathematics is inviting artists to speak even on that level. How do we begin to really heal ourselves and provide internal leadership, just simply around the issue of violence? But let me tell you what there is an infrastructure being put together. We intend to this event kicks off a 2-year community education leadership process where we use reparations as a model, as a centerpiece in terms of conversation, but we're building leadership. We're creating cross-generational engagement around issues that impact our community. We, in a very tactical and numerical way, we want 70 commissioners across the Black community, Roxbury, Dorchester, Mattapan, in general, coming together weekly, bi-weekly, talking about reparations as the centerpiece, but also talking about all those issues around spiritual repair and reconciliation that Minister Farrakhan has been talking about for 30 years. Those are important messages we need to transmit across generations.
So you're getting at to the heart of what my question is that the folks that most likely will attend this event are already plugged in. How do we get that disconnected group of people as a buy-in to what is going to benefit them and what they're going to, because a lot of times, folks, if it's like I said, I've always said, if I was saying MAMLEO was giving away 10,000 turkeys today, I couldn't get out of this building before there'd be 5,000 people pushing the door open, right? How do we get that population engaged, like you said, that are committing the violence, to understand that that is harmful to us, right? We're doing it to each other. How do we connect them in this?
It's through outreach. It's about
how does that start?
Well, each one teach one.
Okay.
That's how it happens. But you also have to realize, Brother Larry, when we talk about the magnificence of the civil rights movement, historians have said that less than 6% of the Black community participated in the civil rights movement. As powerful as it was. So we can do some community, some social transformation on a very powerful level, even among a small sect. Now, and we can impact the whole community. We're not going to get everyone, but if we make the move, in the absence of doing nothing, for example, nothing happens. But if we can do something that incrementally educates, engages folks. Now, I think we're going to get a nice cross-generational mix. And if we empower them, engage them in ways where they say the next day, they got the day off the next day, that they were at a powerful event. Right. And this is what it was about.
But that's what I'm saying. But that goes back to my analogy of the moment, not the movement, right? Because you're also up against, back then, we didn't have cell phones. We didn't have the communication. So we had to come together to be able to get that information and share that information. We don't do that. And if you put something like that, for the most part, on social media, like we put on some, come out and support us in this effort in bettering your situation, folks, delete, right? But again, if I say come out and get this free turkey, I get 10,000 replies. I'm saying, how do we
it speaks
start changing that mindset? I know it's not going to happen overnight, but
and it speaks to the crisis in our community.
That's what I'm talking.
There's
the right word, crisis.
But we gotta. We all as prophets, right? All of us.
Yeah.
Prophetic work here. I think when you look at events that happened, that was, watershed events in our community that shift our community, it always started with a small group. So if we would have waited until, you got everyone, then you probably wouldn't have anything accomplished.
That's
so. Yeah. So I welcome the idea that we will, and I caution you to think it this way. We not going to get everybody. There's going to be a small group of folks, but you can make some mighty changes with a small group of individuals who are singing on the same chord.
You can, but to that point, like for me, like I'm retiring in January, right? I had John Wells, Billy Celeste, a long list of mentors, right? Who, and some of those same people, Jamal, were mentored by some of those same people. I say this because my concern is there are very few people I see now in my profession that have that same. So that is helpful and it's needed in the community because the community is not going to buy into people they don't have relationships. It's all about relationships. Your title means absolutely nothing to them, right? And so a lot of our folks have gone on, right, who were leaders in our, like the Bill Owens and folks like that, right? So, and we haven't learned from that. And we'll say that people who don't learn from history are doomed to repeat it, and we're going through that cycle right now. And I guess my concern and my fear is, how do we get back on track, gentlemen? And help me out here. I'm trying to be optimistic, but I'm also being realistic based on what I feel. Good.
So Larry, right? And this is to Dr. Bradley's point as well. What I have found over the years is I used to try to be what I call Camp Come Along. Hey, everybody, let's do the black thing. Tuesday, December 12th, everybody join in. And then, you do that thing and everybody ain't there. So what I have found out is I have gone from a massive strategy. Oh, and then also, too, Kevin said, as prophets, right? The problem is oftentimes the false prophets is getting more love than the real prophets,
That's
right?
That's right.
So where somebody like, Miss Monica was able to amass those huge crowds, and Larry, you said, how do you bring more people in? How were they brought in? With drama, salaciousness, all of this type of extra neck snapping and bippity bop. That's what drew the masses in, because now it became Jerry Springer X. Right. Okay? All right? And so now, in the absence of that now, folks such as myself have gone to the little engine that could theory. That's what I call it.
Yeah.
Okay? So literally, how we now have decertification.
Yeah.
That came to me one night at like midnight in my boxers. Doing some research because I was thinking about police reform and how could we do this and how could we do that. And finally, I came across this guy, Professor Roger Goldman. And that's the guy that we ended up bringing to Boston. He's the father of decertification all across the country. We brought him to Boston. Nobody was trying to help out initially. But then when it got good, then a bunch of people jumped in. You know what I mean? And whatever we had, obviously that's the simplified version. We have decertification today. Same thing with what happened at the city level. I held on to that thing like a dog with a bone about civilian review board and changing that thing that Menino named the co-op and all that. And finally, it happened. So I think a lot of these things end up with dogged determination. And I'm not saying I did that alone, because obviously that was a whole task force, right? And obviously post and decertification happened after without. But I'm saying sometimes it takes that person to be like a spark or inject a new idea or a new theory into the arena, and then let that seed take sprout. So in my view, we need to do more of that, dealing with policies and proposals, and get away of a lot of what I call, the rah-rah, shish, boom, bah, where we're just out there protesting, shouting at the sky and all of this type of thing. Oh, and lastly, so Kevin, with your Faneuil Hall thing, right?
Yes, sir.
We were never far apart on that. And if you remember some of our early conversations was, my thing was, okay, great, but what about Washington and Columbus? You know what I mean? 'Cause I'm like, we got so many around here. And most recently, you may have seen my thing, where now I went into recent history with Jim Kelly and Dapper O'Neil. And I'm happy to report the Dapper O'Neil room will be denamed. That's happening now. Hopefully, that's in process, and we'll all see that. And the Jim Kelly Bridge, and get some traction on that as well.
But here's the thing with that, and this is why I say I don't disagree with changing the names, but the same shenanigans will take place in that room. So there's nothing good coming out of that. You change the name, but if you don't change what takes place in there, it doesn't really move the needle. And let me give you a quick example, and Kevin, I'll let you jump in. Is it comes to mind like Mary Franklin, God rest her soul, right? Now, whatever you thought about Mary, right? She her issue of unsolved murders, right? She championed that, and when she passed, no one is talking about the problem that we still have is unsolved homicides.
Right.
And that's what I'm talking about, is that no one picks up the mantle of the cause, whether you like somebody or not.
Well, it's important to mentorship piece is very, very important. So we as elders, speaking prophetically, we also need to to mentor the next generation. We need to pull other people in. The name change piece, and I want to go back to the to the poetry thing with mathematics still on, but the name change piece for me has always been, and the folks who work around, it's always been about community transformation. It's always been about how do we get to this discussion around reparations? How do we get a task force? How do we mobilize the community? So we got to change the name because that was a bad dude, right? If Faneuil Hall was named Hitler Hall today, tomorrow it would be changed, right? That speaks to the issue that there is systemic racism among white people and a kind of dysfunction among black people in terms of the name.
Amen to that.
In terms of the name change. So we have to do that. But more broadly and more importantly, we have to speak to the issue of systemic community change and that cross-generational engagement and the ways in which we can mentor the next generation so that there is another Larry Ellison. So Larry, I'll challenge you. Who is the next Larry Ellison after you leave? Who have you pulled? I'll challenge you.
No,
who have you pulled?
I'll tell you.
Okay.
So you and I can answer that.
So it's being done.
So it was done. So I was able to identify Eddie Crispin, the former president of MAMLEO.
Beautiful.
And then I was able to, with
Dr.
him
Lopes.
and I, Dr. Lopes, who is our current president of MAMLEO.
And
But I struggle past him.
But if I may, because as you guys are talking, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, we have to look at how do we mentor, how do we do this, and I'm using a farm analogy here because that's the way I think. An apple seed doesn't become a tree overnight.
Correct.
All right,
But also needs cross-pollination.
but that's where I'm going.
Okay.
There are some things that needs to happen before that apple seed becomes that beautiful tree that's producing apples.
Yeah.
Which is the same thing as that you're just talking, and also the same thing that Jamal is saying. We need to make sure that and I'm gonna go back to the reparation. When we do this reparation, we do the things that we're doing. We have a healthy amount of people who are coming up behind us.
Right.
To continue to push it because we have limitations. One of those limitations, by the way, is that we're human.
Right.
All right. And that, like anybody else, I'm going to use Curtis Mayfield here. We're going to cry so many tears in a lifetime. We're going to die in so many years. That's the reality. So how do we make sure that the next group, the next generation, Generation Z, Generation whatever, is ready to fight the fight?
No, I like that apple tree because I learned the hard way, and this is where it say I planted an apple tree in my yard, and my neighbor said to me, "It's never going to grow." I said, "What do you?" He said, "Because you have to plant two." So what I'm saying is that I could not just put that to. So my mentoring of these folks is that I needed to stand beside them. So if there weren't two trees planted at the same time, neither one of them would grow. And even if one started a little early, because I'd already put that one in the ground, and been for a week, he said it's not too late to plant the other one. You still have time. They will grow together. That's what we're missing here, is that growing together. Because I was very happy to pass the baton, and very happy. And I act in an advisory role, just like you continue to act as an advisor, Kevin, Jamal. But I'm seeing a disconnect in a lot of the other organizations that we need to partner. We were... And maybe because of necessity, because we weren't looking for acceptance and we weren't accepted in a lot of these other arenas, that we had no one but ourselves to rely on. We've gotten away from that in a lot of ways, and that's where I think we're hurt. So,
can I ask, is Brother Mathematics still on? If he can give,
I'm still here, brother.
Yeah, if you can just give an overview of what the night looks like, I think that might be helpful for folks.
So, just so you know, I heard the brother ask you, what's the continuum after this? I would like to see a unity walk go from Dudley to Lenox to Mass Ave to the Strand Theater. And if we can get the sponsors and supporters, I would like to see Chuck D and KRS-One support our next event, but allow some Boston poets, featured artists, and spoken word. So if we can pull off the small thing, then I think that we can try to pull off the big event that I have in my cocoon next, and if I can work with Kevin, and then I think when we start to bring these more labeled and seasoned artists, that can attract more people to come, along with the Unity Walk, something similar to the Million Man March, something similar to the
Family Million March, but just in Boston, where we'll unify, start in Nubius Square. That'll be like Africa, and then we'll take that walk through all these colonies, kind of like we came on the slave trade, until we get to the Strand Theater. Throw the event right in our community, not try to get these other events in these other places. But how the event's going to go is it'll be like a
I don't
know each other.
I don't want to be that wet blanket on what you're saying, because I don't have any issues with that. But again, I'm looking for the continuing, right? Because that's one day, maybe 2 days, and I see those. They have the peace walks here in the community every Friday with clergy. They walk down to different parts of the city, but the violence continues because we don't take ownership of it. So I'm saying, is there an ownership out of this where
right
so
now,
let me just say this, and I'll let you jump in. So I'm saying is that maybe we start at Nubian Square and we stay there. We don't move until we get that stabilized, because moving away from there and walking through, people see us, but we've left the problem down there in Nubian Square. So maybe that's where, my opinion, we start there and we stay there until we get that under control before we move on and branch out into.
You're in the committee, Larry. You're in the committee. You're in the planning committee.
And also, but there's a lot of brothers that I work with out for good. Lives are meant to be changed. Yard Time Entertainment, and all these brothers are all willing to come in, and we can all throw weekly classes. Where maybe if we get a place at the bowling center or wherever, we can rent out a room and we can throw different classes that can address different topics that brothers, mental health, addiction, recovery, fatherhood. I'm also tied in with the Family Nurturing Center. They can chime in. We can throw a nurturing fathers course, because a lot of brothers don't even know how to be fathers. We only know how to be dads. You know what I'm saying?
So, bro, check this out. So a lot of this too. Here's what I would encourage you to do. Here's what I would recommend. First of all, I would try to get, like, in my brain or collectively, like a database of what is already happening. Because, like, so for instance, you just mentioned Yard Time. Peace to Joey, that's my guy, right? And a lot of these other cats who were doing things in pockets, and some people who've been on the show, Devon from Not On My Watch, mentoring and all this, right? But the problem is, all of this needs to be organized. I tried to set up something. You've seen the movie The Warriors, right? With the dude, that's what we're doing on a small level. This, like, first we got to take this event on the 9th. Not to cut you off, the event on the 9th has to be taken from knowledge to born, which means from start to finish. Once we do one thing, then we can bring more other collaborative people in. But you're 100% right. Everybody's doing their own thing because nobody knows how to shrink their ego.
So, Matt,
hold on, let me just finish this, please. All I'm saying is, it's not about what folks is going to do or whatever. All I'm saying is do the history, because what I believe we're in is a process of reinventing the wheel. Much of this has already been done. And you should take note of both the successes and the failures to then plot the course on how you intend with your squadron to then replicate the process. Because all I'm saying is a lot of what you're talking about has already been done. And so it wasn't done with attraction. There's a group of brothers now that all have that are making it attractive and sexy. I don't know if you've been on my page. I make recovery and transformation real attractive and sexy. And a lot of these messages that were being presented in the past were kind of dull and stale, and they can't keep up with the.
So let me jump in here because for the sake of time, right? You're saying we can. This was like a sidebar conversation. I wanted you to give a listening audience a little bit more of the details of the upcoming event next week.
All right. 7 to 7:30 is going to be like a bonding time where brothers will come in. We have a DJ come in. There'll be some subtle music playing in the background, uplifting music. We're not, old school Public Enemy stuff like that. New school stuff that's uplifting. More some J. Cole stuff, brothers like that. Kendrick Lamar up to date that are all. But there'll be some. The DJ's definitely seasoned. Then at 7:30 we'll have the speakers that are going to come and educate the community.
So we're going to have the speaker that Brother Kevin has from the college. Randy Muhammad is going to speak, and Kevin's going to speak. There'll be some type of uplifting for the soul music played between each speaker. Then between like 8 and 8:20, there'll be 2 or 3 featured artists. Each featured artist will play they'll do 1 to 2 of their songs. Then around 8:30, we're going to start a contest for the spoken word and the poetry. That'll last for 45 minutes. Each person can perform 1 song. Then it'll transition to 3 or 4 featured artists. Then there'll be a second round. 5 people out of that first round will get picked for the second round. Then there'll be more featured artists. This will all be with the DJ playing in the background. Then there'll be more featured artists. Then on the third round will be out of those 5, 3 people that get picked to perform 1 song each, and then they'll all be classified $200 winner, $100 winner, $150 winner. The event will close with a closing remark of thanks from Kevin, and then there'll be like a unity pledge made by myself. The event will be hosted by myself and Ed Sumter, kind of like co-hosting, and then there's going to be, like I said, there'll be a DJ,
right? So
there'll be a contest, there'll be featured artists, and there will be featured speakers.
So 2 quick questions. One, what's the capacity for the event, and is this a free event?
150.
It's a free event.
Yeah, okay.
150 people capacity. That could filter outside a little bit. We're doing a walkthrough today with me and Kevin. We do have security aligned for the event. The brothers from the Nation of Islam, we tried to get them, but they will be present because of Randy Muhammad. And a lot of these artists that I'm bringing are they're kind of hot. Extra Fame's my guy. Bro Walker, Joe Dyer's come in, Zed Kenzo, Singapore Kane. You know, we got some good all
Bradley and I are both like, okay, when we gonna get somebody we know? That's just so.
I don't know how old you guys are, so. I can't see you visually, but I'm not saying.
I just told you I'm retiring in a couple of months, so that tells you.
That don't mean nothing. Some people are successful. They're retiring at 57.
Not working for the city.
Okay, I got you.
Motown. I would just say Motown.
Right. Okay, got you. So what we're just trying to do on that day is just bring people out. The DJ itself can create an atmosphere of dancing. Unity, kind of like people collaborate and network. Hey, if you want to throw your card in a box, then maybe if we have a box where everybody can throw their business card in there, then at the end of the event we can create a mass email so that everybody will have everybody's email and contact information. Just kind of like really just trying to bring some unity and bonding. It's going to be early, and it's the day before a holiday, so no one has to complain about being out till 10:30, 11 because there is no work the next day, and it's right on C Road.
For some,
yeah. It's right on Columbia Road. It's T accessible.
Yeah. Okay. Jamal, any closing works for me before we let Kevin close out this segment? He's going to stick around with us for 9 o'clock hour because he's got something related that he wants to get into.
I'm gonna keep tuned in, but y'all make sure to connect me and this brother. But yeah, I just want to give you some background history on some things that have been going on in Boston in terms of revolution and organizing. And also, too, apparently, hip-hop and spoken word. And hopefully, it's somebody could give you the correct spelling of my name or something, because you should just look me up. And and then we'll have a great old time.
Nice.
Let's do it.
No,
don't. Okay.
All right, Jamal. Like I said, keep plugged in. We're gonna. So, Kev, before we close out this hour,
the thing is,
hold on. I'm sorry. Sure. He started off. Remember, y'all said pastor or reverend. He's pastor or reverend when he ain't got the glasses on. Then he put the glasses on. Now he's doctor.
Okay, doctor. Okay. All right. Well, listen.
Jamal,
I'm used to working with people with aliases, so it don't matter.
Yeah. That's right. And Jamal, I confuse myself sometimes.
There you go.
I wake up a pastor. I go to sleep with reverend.
There you go.
And then I'm over at BU. I'm a doctor. And I'm a lecturer.
Yeah.
But very nice talking to you, Jamal. I hope to see you next week. this issue I failed to mention is part of a national initiative of groups from around the country who are doing similar work, and we're all using different templates. We're the first among the New Orleans group, the Asheville, North Carolina group, and I think it's Charlottesville's group, who are coordinating reparations activities in their respective cities. Right. So this is what the Boston group is doing, and we're going to continue this for the next 2 years. So that's
Reparations Boston in spoken word, Sunday, October 8th from 7 p.m. at 611 Columbia Road, Dorchester, Mass. Like I said, we have a little bit more about it at the top of the hour, but we've got it. Kevin's been in this seat before. We've got to take a break. I don't know, Mathematics, are you stinker with us, or are you taking off as well? I want to...
I can hang around for another 15 minutes.
Okay, all right. So
chime into the next segment.
All right, we're going to take our break. When we come back, Kevin's got another topic here. It's the Kevin Peterson, a.k.a. Dr. Reverend Pastor Hour. Brother Hour. You've been listening to the Round Table with MAMLEO. We'll take our break. We'll be right back.
Days they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game. It ain't a challenge if your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, while your dog's in prison. Living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'. You ain't gotta lie to me to sell me a track. You ain't gotta rock fake jewels or walk around strap. I respect artists getting money, but love them for spitting crack. And the fact that one track can move a family out the trap. It's a dream for us lost souls brought up in the mix. I'm motivated by the artists coming out in my midst. And the artists that paved the way when I didn't exist. Music's a skyscraper, I'm just trying to add a couple bricks.
This is for the dreamers. They say I am a dreamer. Cause I still believe that anything is possible as long as you work hard.
Hustle real hard, hustle real hard. Hustle real hard, hustle
So
real
if I never see ya, never get the chance to meet ya, no, I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog.
Hustle real hard, hustle real hard.